Sabinus quos in praesentia tribunos militum circumse habebat, et primorum ordinem centuriones se sequi iubet, et cum proprius ambia regem accisset, iussus arma abjecere imperatum facet, suisque ut idem faciant imperat. Okay, let's see. Starting off with Sabinus, who looks nominative, and by now you see this quos, and that should set off all sorts of markers for you. First of all, looks accusative. Secondly, it's a QU word, probably a relative clause. So let's see where this relative clause starts. Quos in praesentia, note prepositional phrase, tribunos. That's interesting, another accusative, but we still need a verb for a relative clause. We're going to keep going. Militum genitive, circumse, another prepositional phrase. Habebat, wow, that's pretty long. So we have this ginormous relative clause, prepositional phrase here, prepositional phrase there, and the whole thing in pink is a relative clause. But why do we have quos and tribunos? Why do we have two accusatives, no connector thing? Oh, because Caesar is probably using quos to point to tribunos as a demonstrative. So whatever, or which tribunes. So this is one whole clause here. And we know that Sabinius is probably doing something to these tribunes, but we have to keep going. Oh, we have an et, which tells us Caesar is going to introduce a similar sort of construction. So let's see what that is. So we're going to start here, and genitive, oh, accusative. Okay, so we've got one direct object here. Sabinius is doing something to these guys, and another direct object here. And the reason I stopped here at say is because it started getting confusing. Why do we have another accusative there just sitting? And if we keep going, seque iubet, oh, it makes sense now. Sabinus, who is the subject of our sentence, I'm going to highlight him. This is his main verb, iubet. And you always order an accusative to do things. You always order an accusative to do an infinitive. So Sabinus orders this accusative and this accusative to do something to this accusative. And then Caesar gives us another et with this comma. So I'm thinking that we're actually going to talk about another thing that Sabinus does. He orders and he does a bunch of other stuff. But of course, before we get there, Caesar gives us this cum clause. And we can tell it's a cum clause because it's not with, because after cum is an adverb, and you're not going to put an adverb between a preposition with and its object. So it's a cum clause, and you can also tell because there's a subjunctive verb right there. So we're still waiting to see what Sabinus does. We know that he orders, but we're still waiting because we got that cum clause in the way. And then Caesar gives us iussus, which looks nominative, singular, masculine, probably talking about Sabinus, having been ordered, arma, and you're always ordered to do something, so we need an infinitive to go with it. Okay, well, that's an accusative. That's not going to cut it. Here it is, abjecere. So we have this participial clause describing Sabinus, but we're still waiting to see what he did besides iubet. Oh, imperatum looks accusative. Oh, there's the other main verb, facet. So Sabinus ordered all the stuff, and he does this accusative thing. Oh, and there's more. Suisque ut idem faciant imperat. Oh boy, let's see. And that que is telling us we still have more stuff. Now don't get tripped up. Ut idem faciant, that has got to be an ut clause, obviously, ut. What kind of an ut clause? Oh, well, if you look at the next verb that Sabinus does, you'll see it's an ordering verb. What kind of a ut clause do you get when your main verb is one of ordering somebody? Sounds like you're trying to get somebody to do something. I will let you ponder that. Interim, dum de conditionibus inter se agunt, longiorque consulto ab ambir rige institutor sermo, paulatum circumventus interficitur. Wow, that's kind of sudden. Let's see what happens. Meanwhile, I love that word, meanwhile. Okay, and then we've got dum, and the authors were, or the editors were so kind to tell us that this is a dependent clause. Well, A, Caesar gives us the word dum, and B, it's marked off with commas. So, let's see. Ginormous dependent clause. Well, we're going to stop there and decide if it's going to end there or not. But this is a good place to stop because I can't stand to not chunk things out. Look, we have a prepositional phrase, 1, and then another prepositional phrase, 2. So that's a good place to stop this dependent clause, but for the fact that it looks like it continues because we've got this que. And what? I think we should keep going. And longiorque consulto ab enrique institutor sermo. That's a good place to stop. Notice we got a comma there. Plus, it gives us another subject and verb, sermo and institutor. So this is a ginormous dependent clause with, let's see, we had agunt as a third person plural verb, and then we have another subject and verb. So there are two big things happening inside the stem clause. But we will continue. So we're still waiting for the main sentence. Meanwhile, while all this stuff is going on, little by little, Circum ventus. Looks nominative, participly, probably talking about Sabinus, because we haven't really introduced another main subject yet. Oh no, Circum ventus, interficator. Do you need a moment of silence? So I guess we can highlight interficator as blue, because we're continuing our tradition. Sabinus, he did that. He orders that. He does this. He does this, and this happens to him. And Caesar describes it. When it happened to him, he was Circum ventus.